Kia ora koutou, Markie here with another Retroactive Jealousy video. We're on a bit of a roll at the moment. So apologies again for the jazzy screen. I'm filming my computer screen while I show you something online. I know that's not a very good way of doing it, but my technical skills are terrible. So I want to talk about Rebecca syndrome and an article that has recently been shown to me online, which talks about retroactive jealousy. Okay, so but before we get into that, remember, for those of you who've been here before, this is a channel with a mission. Our goal is to get retroactive jealousy information out there to people who are suffering from it, who don't know that it's a thing and don't know that help is available. And help comes in many forms, including therapy. One of the things that we provide ourselves is therapy. We've got an international team of therapists that do online work with people with retroactive jealousy, but we provide a load of free stuff, and most of all we give out information and we do free videos on retroactive jealousy just to get the word out to people. So if you want to support our mission, then subscribing, liking, sending us a nice comment, joining us on Patreon, all those things are really helpful. We really appreciate that. So having got that bit out of the way, so Rebecca syndrome. So this was a bit of an eye-opener for me, because I thought I had invented or coined the term Rebecca syndrome in relation to retroactive jealousy. And this article, so it's on a website called Wellness Trends, and I can't really seem to see much about them. I don't really know where this comes from. So you've got beauty, health, food, recipes, fashion. There's no about us or contact us or anything like that. So it's some sort of website. And they're talking about Rebecca syndrome. I'll put a link to this article. It's interesting. I mean, it's always great to see retroactive jealousy talked about in different places for the word to get around. It's a pretty good article. There's a few errors. A lot of people probably wouldn't pick up on those errors, but because I guess I know a lot about retroactive jealousy, I pick up on these things. So first thing I want to point out, and this is why this article struck me in the way that it did, is it's using the term Rebecca syndrome synonymously with retroactive jealousy. It doesn't actually explain why they're calling it Rebecca syndrome. It just kind of uses that name. Now, I've used the term Rebecca syndrome before. Like I say, I thought I invented it. In terms of certain conditions, or a certain situation where somebody has retroactive jealousy, but not for all retroactive jealousy. I wouldn't call retroactive jealousy Rebecca syndrome, generally speaking, because I don't think that would be helpful or accurate. So first of all, why Rebecca syndrome? Well, these people at, what are they called? True Health? Wellness Trends, not True Health. Where did I get that from? They've used it for all retroactive jealousy, just as another term for it. So, and they haven't explained it. So Rebecca, and I'm assuming that they're thinking the same way as me, and just guessing what the meaning of Rebecca syndrome is in their case, is a reference to Daphne du Maurier's novel Rebecca, which some people say is basically a rehashing of Bronte's Jane Eyre, which there's a lot of similarities between Rebecca and Jane Eyre. But so basically in Rebecca, if you've not read it or seen the films, there's some good films of it. Woman falls in love with a man who owns this whopping great big country mansion in Cornwall, and goes back and takes over as kind of lady of the manor, if you like. But her beloved's deceased wife is everywhere. It's as if she's still alive, and everybody talks glowingly of her, and her initials are printed on everything, and wherever she goes people say, oh, that's not how Rebecca would have done it. It drives her nuts, understandably. So I can't remember. I've looked back to see if I've done a video on Rebecca syndrome, and I haven't done one with that in the title, but I know we have talked about it in videos. So I've talked about it where in specific cases where the ex is kind of omnipresent, and it's very difficult to get away from the ex, but I haven't used it for every form of retroactive jealousy. I have talked about how how Rebecca has flavours of retroactive jealousy within it. I've definitely done something on that, but I can't find it, which is annoying. I might have given it an obscure title. So it's great that they're covering this. It's interesting where they've got this Rebecca thing from. Maybe they've even got it from me, I don't know. I'm just going to scan it. Obviously, I'll give you the link and you can read it. So they've made a few assumptions here, sweeping assumptions that I would challenge. So on the one hand, there is a low self-esteem that pushes those who try to compare themselves with people of the past. On the other hand, there is a great fear of abandonment. Yes and no. So I think low self-esteem is probably in most cases of retroactive jealousy. Zachary Stocker always says it's insecurity. That's the word that he uses, which would kind of replace, which would include the fear of abandonment and what on here they call self-esteem. A lot of people who have retroactive jealousy are narcissists, and narcissists they do have very low self-esteem, but it's hidden under a whopping great big defense mechanism of narcissism, and narcissism presents as almost like too high self-esteem. So yes and no. I suppose it's a little bit more nuanced than this. And again, with the fear of abandonment, yes, fear of abandonment is a common thing with retroactive jealousy, but not always. And sometimes often the fear of abandonment is unconscious. So people with retroactive jealousy wouldn't necessarily say that I've got a fear of abandonment, but it might be in the mix there somewhere. Okay, so I'm being a bit picky there, but so it goes on to say, can also be triggered by past traumatic experiences. Yes, often there is trauma in the history of people with retroactive jealousy. Betrayal by a partner or traumatic stories lived out in the family environment. Often it's actually narcissistic parenting seems to be the common thing. None of this is proved because we haven't been able to, that research hasn't been formally conducted, but from clinical observations that would seem to be the case. In most cases it can start as any form of jealousy, slowly revealing itself due to some characteristics that get worse over time. I'm not sure about that. I think, yes, it often does come along with other forms of jealousy, but I don't know that it would come out of general jealousy. In fact, those who suffer from it tend to experience the past more than the present, feel a need to know everything about the ex of their partner, which a need is countered by a strong sense of annoyance in hearing about it. That's correct, but I don't think it's very well put. It's a compulsion to find out about a partner's sexual history, not necessarily about their exes. It might just be about the kinds of things they've done, not necessarily even about the person. It can be the action, and the need is counterposed. It's not annoyance. What actually happens when people hear more information? Generally speaking, they feel reassured temporarily, and then they think more about the information they've been given, and that triggers the next series of obsessive thoughts, and that leads to the next demand or compulsion to ask questions. If you want to know about, there's more videos about how that whole cycle works. The exes, or one in particular towards whom there is more apprehension and mythologicalized, that's easy for you to say, and seen as perfect, and this leads to always feeling inferior. Now, I said this in one of the most recent videos, that is not always the case. Sometimes people will look at their partner's exes and think, and look down on them and see them as inferior, and then think the issue that they have is, well, why did you go out with that idiot, scumbag, moron, blah blah blah, insert whatever words you want to into there. If you like them, or if you would have sex with them, or if you said you loved them, or if you married them, then obviously I have no value to you, and our relationship has no value. That's the other side of it. Fear and obsession, sometimes even aggressive. Yes, that can happen. Affects both sexes. Even if often women seem more focused on the sentimental aspect, while men tend to be worse off from sexual backgrounds. It's a funny way of putting it, but yes, the male and female subtype, we call that. Although there are men that are more focused on sentimental stuff, so that would mean by like marriages, romantic history, and there are women that are more focused on the sexual side of things, and a lot of people have both sides, which is what we call the combined subtype. So in order to recover from this syndrome, it's important, first of all, to realise that you have it, yes, and seek a solution, yes. It's important that those who suffer are able to receive personal help in order to be able to work on their self-esteem. It's not all about self-esteem. It's more about obsessive compulsive disorder. And what we do is we treat the obsessive compulsive disorder first and deal with this, in a way, deal with the self-esteem afterwards, because it's the cycles and the patterns of obsessive compulsive disorder that drive this, and you have to, it's like a kind of an engine or a machine or a vehicle, and you have to kind of derail it, and then once that's derailed, you can work on the deeper issues. So it's not all about self-esteem. Self-esteem is part of it. At the same time, it can obviously be useful to work on the couple in order to establish a dialogue that helps both partners to deal with the problem in a harmonious way and using the right words. Yes, it can, though often it has its place, let's say. But actually, the bulk of the work needs to be done by the person with the retroactive jealousy. But the partner needs to know certain things in order not to make it worse, and to support the person, and also to keep themselves safe from any abusive behaviours or unreasonable behaviours. But couples work, again, probably the couple work, I'd say, probably come later. If there's a problem, is there ever a problem if faced the right way and with the right collaboration of the partner, can be solved by going to heal those fears that over time risk corroding even the most beautiful stories. Yes. So yeah, I think I'm being really picky here, okay? So I don't want to give the impression that I don't welcome this article or I don't like this article. I think it's great. I'm just being super picky. But the bulk of the treatment and therapy around retroactive jealousy is not the partner and the sufferer talking it through. The bulk of it is the sufferer doing some work on their own, and doing some using techniques, daily techniques, to break the cycles. It's all about reinforcing cycles. In 99% of cases, anyway. There are the occasional cases of something that's like retroactive jealousy that doesn't present with the same drives as obsessive compulsive disorder, and that you treat that slightly differently. So we can help with all of these things, and the videos that we put out, of which there are over 100 now, they can all help with that as well. So I hope that's helpful, and like I say, if you want to have a look at this article, I'll put a link to it. Thank you, Wellness Trends, for featuring retroactive jealousy. If you do come across this video, I would love to know where you heard of Rebecca syndrome, because I'm not aware of anybody else using that term, but maybe somebody else is, and I'd love to know. Curiosity is burning within me for that. So thank you for watching, and we'll be back with you in the next one. Rangimarie.